What drew you to coaching?
What drew me to coach? Well, probably, Anna, the thing that brings everybody to coaching, that when you've grown up playing sports all your life and you can't play anymore, they say you're not good enough to play. You're not good enough to play pro ball. You've been playing all your life. And so you say, what am I going to do? All I've ever done was sports. And he said, well, I might as well go into coaching. And that was it. It was that simple, you know. It's just, it wasn't something that I said I wanted to do when I was 12 years old. It was something that, because I thought I'd play sports forever. I thought I would never quit playing sports because that's all I did all my life. So anyway, that was it. And I had a chance to, long story short, I made a D or maybe an F, I can't remember. But my daddy was pretty strict on grades because he didn't get a high school education. Back then he had to work. And so I was going to play baseball in high school, and he said, nope, you're not playing because you made a bad grade. And about 2 or 3 weeks later, the people in my hometown at the recreation center had to have a coach for some project kids that lived behind the high school. Nobody would coach the project kids, so they were mean little kids. And so my daddy said I could do that. And I coached them for 2 years, and when I was in high school. And that's when I started coaching, and we didn't win a ball game.
Where'd you coach them in? What sport?
Baseball.
Baseball?
Didn't win a ball game in 2 years.
No? How old were they? They
were 8 to 12.
Okay.
But we did not win a ball game for 2 years, and we went undefeated, but on the wrong side of the ledger. And I went to Panama City for a beach trip one time with some other high school kids. And my buddy coached him, and he won the game when I was gone. So I didn't know if I should be a coach or not. You know.
That's funny. So you started off assistant coaching at Alabama, and then moved to Virginia Tech.
Right.
So what moved you to come to Clemson specifically?
Well, when I moved to Virginia Tech from Alabama, I really don't quite understand to this day. You know, the good Lord has plans for you. And sometimes you don't understand exactly what they are, but you go ahead and do with a gut feeling or whatever you think is right, with no explanation. But we had beaten Virginia Tech 72-6 that year, and then I went to Virginia Tech. That didn't make a whole lot of sense. Alabama, Chancellor had a great program going to a school that we just beat by 60-something points. Didn't even know where Virginia was, Blacksburg, to tell you the truth. Never been out of the state of Alabama, so. But it was good that I moved, and I got the exposure of the East Coast and of Virginia and New York and everything else, in Pennsylvania and New Jersey, some places that later helped us recruit. So then I stayed there a couple of years, and then I had a chance to come back. And well, my mom and daddy they were 40 when I was born, so they were getting a little age on them, and I wanted to try to get back a little closer. And Coach Pale had moved from Virginia Tech to back here and asked me to come. And I did, and it was just a little bit closer. Virginia was far enough north for me.
Were you as shocked as everyone else when Coach Pell took the job down in Florida?
Yeah, we were going to Charlotte. We had already left it was in December. I believe it was in December. Because the Shrine Bowl game was going on. There was 3 or 4 of us coaches driving up to Charlotte for the Shrine Bowl to watch them practice. We spent all week up there recruiting. And we just got in, checked in the hotel, and just going to get together with some people and visit with some Clemson people, and got a phone call to turn around and come back home. So we drove up there and drove right back, and then he told everybody, and so we were shocked. Yeah, we wouldn't have made the trip up to Charlotte and back if we had known that something was going on.
When that was announced, did you have any idea that you might be named the interim coach?
Absolutely not. After we met with Coach Pell, he offered me a job in Florida, and 2 other coaches, and he wasn't going to carry the whole staff, which was surprising. And then after he did that, and I knew I had a job. I knew I had a football job somewhere. It was going to be at the University of Florida. I happened to have the title of assistant head coach. I didn't mean anything because they already had an offensive coordinator. They already had a defensive coordinator. I was an offensive line coach and assistant head coach. And when I left from Alabama, I was paid pretty good money to go to Virginia and Virginia Tech. And probably for the pay scale, they had to give me a title, and they gave me the title assistant head coach. Now, that doesn't mean I was qualified. We had some other guys more qualified than I to be a head coach. But anyway, after that, we had a meeting, and I told them that I was going to try to get the job if nobody else wanted it, and that was a stupid statement to say because everybody wanted it, But but they said, you know, we made an agreement that we would not fight amongst ourselves, you know,
right.
and try to keep everybody together. So they went along with that. The other coaches did, even though, like I say, that Mickey Andrews especially was much more suited to be a head coach than I was. He'd already been a head coach once before, and he was on our staff, so he had more experience. But they did, you know, they took a chance on a young guy.
So it's safe to say you were a little bit nervous coaching that Gator Bowl?
Oh, Lordy mercy. I'd have jumped out that window before the game if it hadn't been locked and nailed down. It was, yeah, I was. I liked it early because it's, you know, I had a big old suite in a hotel I'd never had before, and I had all this kind of entertainment things that you could have in a room, and all the food you could eat, and the closer it got, the more nervous I got, and I didn't know if I wanted to do that after that, and especially what happened during the game, you know, and but or at the end of the game. But it was a good experience.
And then 1979, 1980, you know, mediocre, still good, okay.
Fair.
Season.
The first year was fair. After I mean, I think we were 7-4, and it was, you know,
Peach Bowl, right?
first year coaching, and that's not terrible, but it's not what Clemson had just done, you know. 10-1, I think, and probably 9-2 before that, or something like that. 2 good years with Coach Pell, 2 awful good years from where they came from. Good players, though. We had good players. Jerry Butler, Bostic boys, Steve Kinney from Raleigh, North Carolina, Jimmy Weeks, Jimmy Wales, the kids I coached, and Steve Fuller was an outstanding quarterback, and just good players that we didn't know we had, or Clemson didn't know they had, that Coach Parker had recruited. So we had 2 good years as assistant coaches, and then 7-4. Then next year 6-5, which wasn't, you know. Then I think all the people say, going the wrong way down this mountain. You know, we're not climbing the mountain, going down backwards. So.
And then you won the national championship in
then
1981. What was special about that season? What came together?
Well, we hired a guy named Tom Harper, which one thing. Tom passed away now, and Tom was we were a young staff, young people, thought we knew everything, didn't know anything. Kind of like a college kid getting out of school. You know, they got an education, now they're going to set the world on fire, and they don't know anything till they go to their first job. And then they say, "Where's all the book sense I learned?" You know, it ain't this ain't what they taught me in school. So I think that was you know what it was feeling like, is that we had to have some experience, and Tom came in as an older coach, had a great amount of experience, been a head coach before. Didn't get nervous, didn't get shook up, had seen everything happen, and kind of kept us in line a little bit. He really helped our football team.
And you were known for your superior conditioning. You wanted to out-condition every other team. What did you do in practice to get those guys in shape?
Oh, we had a lot of fun in practice. You know, somebody told me, asked me the other day, they said, "Well, could you coach now?" And with the time limit on practice, we never had a time limit on practice. We won't stay out there 4 hours. We'd stay out there 4 hours. And many times I'd start practice. We always would have a 2-hour practice, but sometimes we'd work in 5 minutes, always work in 5-minute segments, and the horn would blow off, and we'd be in period 10, which means we'd been out there for 50 minutes. And I'd say, start it over, start with 1. And they always get mad at me, the kids would. We'd get, you know, we just always asking for 2 hours of solid work, you know, hard work. And somebody said, "Well, can you coach now, or could you coach now with a time limit?" You know, yeah, because my 2 hours may be faster than your 2 hours. My 2 hours may be harder than your 2 hours. But we were going to be the best conditioned team we could be, and we were going to be the toughest team we were going to be. If we were going to have a football team, we were going to have a football team that nobody liked to play. You know, and that was very simple philosophy, that we're going to outwork you, we're going to out-hit you, and Saturday's going to be a day of fun.
So what makes a good head coach?
Good players.
Good
Excellent players and excellent coaches.
Easy enough.
It's blown out of proportion a lot. You know, when I went to Arkansas, we didn't have good players. They had gone down a lot downhill. They hadn't built facilities to keep up. The coaches I didn't know well that were out there, and it was hard to get my coaches to come because they were all settled, and I had to go with some people I didn't know, and they didn't have the same philosophy as I did. They were good guys, good coaches, but it's just different. And we struggled a long time. We finally got some good players in there, and it helped the program for later. But we didn't reap the benefits of the W's out of it. We had the losses out of it. But we did have good kids coming, and it helped Arkansas in the future. And now it's a great place to go. We get great facilities and good players and all this kind of thing now. But then it wasn't very good. But people over there didn't think I was too smart, and people over here thought I was pretty smart. But you know, it's all to do with players and coaches.
Right. Well, when you were at Clemson, what was the 1 or 2 games that you circled on the calendar every year?
Well,
you knew it was going to be tough.
You know, you're not supposed to do that.
Right.
But you know, they do that. Especially the coaches, assistant coaches, they'll get in there before the season and start looking at, well, we can win this one, and this is going to be tough. We've got to get this one. But when we were playing Georgia every year, that was sort of a hump game. That's sort of like the college kids would call Wednesday, hump night. You know, you nearly made it to the weekend. Well, if you made it by Georgia, you had a chance to be good. And Georgia was early. Georgia was either the second or third game every year back then. And we split. Over the 11 years, we were like 5-1, I believe, in the record. And then the other one, of course, would have to be South Carolina, because it was the end of the year. It was our rivalry and all that. And then North Carolina back then was probably a game that if you were going to win the conference, you had to beat them because they were awful good. They had Bill Dooley, and they were still recruiting out of Virginia with Lawrence Taylor's. And Virginia had not dropped their academics down to the point that it could take all these kids from the beaches. And Virginia Tech had not either. Since then they have, but Bill Dooley made a living out of recruiting kids out of Virginia Beach area. Great athletes, and they were always really good in North Carolina.
Well, thinking about the landscape now of the ACC, what do you think about the addition of Syracuse, Pittsburgh, and most recently, you know, perhaps Notre Dame?
Well, I really don't know what Notre Dame's going to do yet. You know,
do you think they'll eventually become a permanent member in football?
I have no way of knowing, and I don't know what the commissioner and the presidents talked about with Notre Dame, and what I'm sure they've got a plan, some kind of plan. I know the plan right now is to play 5 ball games a year, but will they leave their TV contract with NBC, which is a lot of money? They haven't yet, so their track record is not to just stay an independent, but they may and may not. Who knows? Syracuse used to be a really good football team, and Pitt has got some history. Pitt beat us in the Gator Bowl when Coach Pale was here. Beat us pretty doggone good in our first year here. So they have some good, solid history of football. What it does, it makes the conference a little stronger now. And I would say that if you were going to expand, they did it the right way, because they're on the East Coast. Their footprint is all the way from New York to Miami. It's not New York, Miami, Texas, Missouri. So, you know, it's not all over the place. It's, you know, this is Atlantic Coast Conference. It's on the East Coast, and it's a lot of travel from Miami to Syracuse. It's got to be a long way, you know, but it can help. It'll make it a better conference. And if Notre Dame plays, it'll help make their reputation get stronger, and they need that.
Yeah.
The Atlantic Conference need that.
Well, with the new 4-team playoff, you know, to get to the national championship, how do you think that's going to affect winning a national championship compared to when you did it?
Well, you have a better chance now because you got 4 teams instead of 2, which is just mathematically.
Do you agree with the playoff system?
Yeah. As long as they keep it with the bowls, and they are. I don't think it'd go to 16 or something like that. A lot of people anticipate, well, you know, 8 may be better. It doesn't matter if it's 4. It doesn't matter if it's 6. Nobody's going to be satisfied if you're number 7 or number 3 or number 5. You know, why am I not in it? You know, but most of the time, 4 teams at the end of the year, you can pretty well pick out what 4 ought to be there, and that's a good number, and it's not too long. It doesn't go into a longer session of missing classes and keeping the kids out of school and playing from July, reporting in July, late July, early August till playing in February, which is way too long.
Right. Well, have you had a chance to watch Clemson this year?
I've seen Clemson.
What do you think about the team this year?
I've seen Clemson play twice at home. Well, I take that back. I shouldn't say this, but I watched let's see, who'd they play first? They played
They played it in Atlanta.
Auburn. I didn't see Auburn. I watched it on TV. I didn't go down, and I had friends on both staffs. Gene Tisch had started coaching at Clemson for me, and Wayne Bolt had coached for me here, and I felt more comfortable watching it right here at the house, and I did. And the next game I think was Ball State, and I went to that game, and watched that game, and they played good, and then I went to the Furman game, but it was so darn hot, and there was a guy with a TV out there in his van who we were tailgating with. And when I got in that cool car and started watching Wake Forest and Florida State and other teams.
They don't put you up in a box?
Oh, yeah, they did, but I just didn't want to walk up that hill to get to the box. So I sat there and listened to it on radio.
Okay.
And I was at the game. I swear I was at the game, but I didn't go in. And I got really and truly, I got now where I just enjoy tailgating about because I never did tailgate. I did all the coaching. Boy, I love tailgating. I like to have a good time at the tailgate. So I sat in there and ate Skins hot dogs and watched the ball game and listened to it on the radio and never went in the stadium.
Did you get to see Clemson play Florida State on TV?
I did. I watched that, and good ball game for 3 quarters for Clemson, or a good part of 3 quarters, and then they sort of fell at the end there. But that's a very competitive game. And it doesn't kill them. What would kill them now is if Boston College comes in and beats them, which they're very capable of doing, or Wake Forest, or somebody, North Carolina State, or Georgia Tech will be hard to win. They always have been. They always will be. Don't matter if Georgia Tech's winning or losing. Don't matter if Clemson's winning or losing. So that'll be a tough game. And
do you have the answer to stopping the triple option?
Do I? Yeah, I do.
You do?
I got one.
What's that?
Well, we would hit that quarterback every time. I mean, I guarantee you that quarterback wasn't. We wouldn't do anything illegal to the quarterback, but we would hit him, as long as he was a threat to run the football, and as long as he's faking and running down the line of scrimmage, he's legal and to hit, and he would be sore.
Yeah, to do that though, you've got to have a dominant defensive line. Do you think Clemson has that this year?
Well, when you have do the wishbone or their version of the wishbone anyway, you just have to play assignment football. You have to have somebody for the quarterback. You have to have somebody for the pitch. You have to have somebody for the dive. Well, whoever's got the quarterback, he's got the quarterback no matter what. And usually it's the end man on the line of scrimmage. Usually, unless you got to blitz or change your defense up. Usually it's a guy that's not blocked, because that's why they call it option. He's going to option on the guy that you don't block. He's going to read one guy, and then he's going to option off the other guy that you don't block. So he got a chance to hit him anyway, and he's not getting blocked anyway. So he'd hit the quarterback as we were playing.
What's your favorite Clemson tradition?
Favorite Clemson tradition? Well, since this is a student television station and radio station, I guess you have it. They got a lot of them. Running down the hill certainly was one. Riding around on the bus was one. Pep rallies was always one for me. First Friday parade was always one. I didn't like to go, but I liked to see the kids. I enjoy the students. I think that's what makes Clemson special. They always say, well, Clemson's a special place. Yeah, it certainly is. But what makes them special is not the bricks in the build, in the mortar, and the teachers, and the engineering department or the science department or the math department. It's the individual people. It's the great teachers that they have who get involved with the community and in athletics, and it's the students who have got their own personalities and mixed in, and they love to be around each other. We always had a good time with the students. I always thrilled at what they could come. Back then they had the student, the spirit group, and they would come up with some fantastic, like the Bloom game. That was one of the most exciting things you've ever seen. If you've never seen pictures of that, it looks like, and you probably have when they released and broke the record on releasing the balloon.
Yes, sir. How many balloons was that?
I don't know, thousands and thousands. But what they did, they had all this gas blowing up, all these bottles of gas blowing these balloons up, and they'd be kids holding hundreds of them around, and I would come out to the farm after the games sometime, and I think it was against Maryland that particular game, God, there was blooms out here all over this place out here, and I'm 8 miles from campus. The blooms just blew everywhere, you know. But I forget how many thousands and thousands of blooms that they did, but it looked like something that you've never seen before. I mean, it's just amazing that they did stuff like that. And then we started the ROTC thing against South Carolina about beating the can all night. And the reason we did that because it got to be where we had some success, not all the time, but had some success against South Carolina, and it seemed like they just started taking it for granted. And we wanted to do something special. Well, the ROTC group was always gave an award every week to our players for Take No Prisoner Award. And the ROTC was always a proud sponsor of our football players. And their cadets would come out every Monday at practice, and the head of the ROTC would come out and give a plaque to whoever their students voted on as most valuable player for that game, a Take No Prisoners Award. And he's usually a defensive guy. So we've always loved being around the young people. They make you stay young.
Yes, sir.
Try to keep up with them and see what they had going on.
You have 4 children.
I got 4 children, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do they live around here?
I got one's in Greenville, one's in Columbia, one's in Texas, and one lives in the farmhouse on the other side of the farm.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. My boy lives here, so, and he's the baby, so I guess he's
still
hanging on to mama.
So going back to your team, what was 1 or 2 players that you just loved to coach?
You know,
I'm sure there's a lot, but
they were, and that's like somebody asked me who's
your favorite kid, right?
Best player we ever had. Yeah, which one of my favorite is the 4? Well, you know, I honestly can say this, I don't think I ever mistreated but 1 child here, and I did 1, and I didn't mean to, but I did 1. I did wrong with one young man, and that was when I was assistant coaching, and he could have been hurt, and I didn't think he was hurt, and I pushed him very hard in practice, and he ended up quitting, and I think later on had some trouble with his back. But basically what I did, I probably forced that kid to not have a chance to finish school and not graduate. I think about him a lot because I know I didn't handle him right. I think I handled most of the others correctly. But one, if you handle one wrong, it's like handling 1,000 wrong. You did wrong, right. You know. So it's not. But some of the ones that were my favorite now, or I really get a kick out of just sitting and thinking about, are the ones I had trouble with, and couldn't straighten them out. You know. And I come back and they come back now and they say, well, you really straighten. Well, for example, one time when I was assistant coach, I was sort of in charge of the discipline when somebody got did something wrong, and we had the dorm where they lived over in Shaletta, or not Shaletta, that was dining hall, but one of the dorms over there.
Manning?
In the circle, no.
Lever?
No.
Burns?
Shaletta, it was a dorm.
That was
the cafeteria.
Yes, sir.
And then the other one was the old girls' dorm. We had ironing boards in it, and then shower curtains with women, you know, that women would use in dorms. It was quite an unusual dorm for a men's dorm, but it was an old ladies, not old ladies, but a ladies' dorm at one time. Anyway, we had a dorm, and we caught some kids with beer in the room one time, and. And I was assistant coach, and there's 2 of them, and then one of them was telling the story the other day to me again, and he asked me if I knew this boy, and I said, yeah, I know this boy. He said, he's a mess. I said, yeah, he's still a mess, but he was really a mess. He said, he told me what you did to him one time. I said, well, we did that. And so anyway, he had some buddies down from Pennsylvania. He was from Pennsylvania, New Jersey, and they had beer in the room, and he wasn't drinking it, supposedly. And another kid on our team was in the room with him, and a great player, went on to pros. So I told him, and I said, well, y'all see me Monday. And so we started running. And
who were these players?
You
can't tell me.
I'd rather not tell you, because
okay.
they're grown men now.
Okay.
I mean, they're so grown, they're in their 50s.
Okay.
But anyway, what happened is, they said, how much are we going to run? I said, well, you're going to run 100 hundreds.
Oh.
And they said, oh, no. And they started laughing like, oh, surely 100. We're not going to run 100. He ain't going to sit out here and wait on us to run 100. We'll be 3 hours, or we'll just take our time and we'll make sure that he'd give up, send us in. Well, no, I didn't. And they got to about 70, and they was counting them and laughing. And it wasn't no sprint. It was just number one. You did something wrong, you're going to stay and pay for it. I ain't going to kill you, but you're going to run 100. It may take you 2 minutes to run 100, but you're going to run 100 of them. And so they did, and they got to about 70, and they quit laughing. Then they got to 80, and then they got to 90, and then they finally finished, and they said, well, we done. I said, oh, no. Oh, well, we won. I said, it didn't say how long. And they did it again next week. And it was, oh, it ain't so funny this week. And they ran them, and then, are we done? I said, no, not yet. And I said, how long are we going to have to run it? He said, till we lose a football game. Of course, y'all done started something good now, because we were winning it. And
yes, sir.
And that year we run about 7 or 8 in a row, and they ended up like the cows I have on this property. They'll walk in the same spot all the time, and they ran on the same spot. So they made a trail up down the practice field that they ran some video on, and just 2-3 weeks ago, a guy from Seneca was saying, "Do you know this man that lives in Seneca now?" I said, "Yeah, I know him." He said, "He told me you made him run a bunch of hundreds one time." I said, "That's exactly right."
Yes, sir.
It's true story.
Today, though, beer in the dorm room doesn't seem, quite such a big deal to what some of these players are doing these days.
Well, that's why I always like dorms. We
Right.
could check on them. And the kid lives in an apartment now off campus.
Mm-hmm.
Number one, you don't know who he's living with. You don't know who his roommate is. You don't know how many roommates he's got. You don't know what time he's going to bed. You don't know how he's living off campus. You don't know if he's got anything illegal that he shouldn't have. You don't know if he's got a gun in the dorm and you get in trouble for that. You don't know if he's involved in drugs or selling drugs, involved in drugs or around drugs, which, drugs are on college campuses, and you'd be naive. We had them at Clemson, but when I was here, but we kind of knew where they were. It's like in this community here, I know where they sell them 3 miles from here, and I know what area it is. But I know I ain't gonna be in that area.
Right.
And in Clemson, it was where you could do bad. It was a small town, but you knew where you could do bad. But your players better not be around that place. But you could nowadays, and back then it was kind of separated a little bit. You had to go to certain places together. Now. I wouldn't be amazed what any of these guys did now. I really wouldn't, because they're young, they're experienced. I had some young kids came not too long ago here. Well, in the last week that camped out here, underage drinking on my place.
Did they know this was your place?
Yeah.
Oh.
And I allowed them to, but I didn't allow them to do that. And I was hunting something they had borrowed to build a fire with, and I found some beer bottles, and I knew they wasn't mine because it was the wrong kind, and I didn't appreciate them doing that.
Right.
And I told them I wouldn't tell their mother, just tell me the truth. They told me the truth. I said, and the other 4 kids that were with you, they better come and tell me the truth. They did wrong. I'd rather have them here where they can't hurt nobody if they're going to do wrong. But I don't want them to do it because it's wrong and it's against the law. But at least they told me the truth, and that amounted to a lot. And that's how I treated our players. If I have to catch you and drug test you, or if I have to catch you, you're going to pay a severe penalty. You tell me the truth, you get 1 free pass. Just tell me the truth, and I always trust you. I had one kid one time got drug tested and got a positive test. And he said, "Coach, I swear I didn't do it." He said, "I was in a car going to a concert in Greenville, and some other guys were smoking it, and it went through my skin." And I said, "Man, don't have me there." And I'd be a son of a gun. I called his mom and daddy, and they were here in my office the next morning. And I said, "This is not the first time that your son's been in trouble. And if he is guilty, he's going to lose his scholarship." and he said he had talked me into giving him a lie detector test. And I brought up a guy in from Pickens, South Carolina, law guy, to give him a test. And I sat outside he was in my office with the guy, and he sat outside with his mother and daddy, and really thought that he was going to be dismissed from our football team. He passed the darn test. I know he was probably guilty, but he passed the test, and that's all I could go by.
That's all you could ask for.
And I don't know what he did or told that man that was in the day, but I don't believe it. I don't believe that marijuana smoke could go through your skin, and I still don't believe that.
Yeah, I don't know. I've never heard that either.
It's pores of your skin is what he talked that guy into, I guess.
Oh man! Well, when you were recruiting, was it hard to draw a line between recruiting the best player or the player that kind of had a troubled background, or did you just go after the best players?
Well, I thought we did a better job than they do now, because our rules were such that you could, NCAA wise. When I was a coach at Alabama, Coach Bryant would always say, you go to the Sunday school teacher, you go to the barber shop, you go to his homeroom teacher, you go to the football coach, you go to his pastor. You find out everything you can about that young man. And if you know him from frontwards to backwards, well, and we'd try to do that. So we tried to find out all about their background we could, other than just the football. We could tell who was a good football. My wife could tell who was a great football player. A good coach can tell who is a good football player, and a really good recruiter can see potential in one, can pick the one that's going to be better than all of them later on. And we had some of them on our staff that could do that too. But now they don't allow you the time to go visit with them under the rules like you used to. You can't go out. You can't spend as much time. You can't even spend as much time on campus with these players you already have here. So you don't know them as well as you should, and that's not, that's really that doesn't make a lot of common sense.
Yeah, with the way though that college coaches will do anything to get the best players on their campuses, do you think it's okay that they have the rules that there's limited amount of contact during the recruiting stage?
Well, there's always ways around it. I mean, if you want to break a rule, you can break a rule. It might be alumnus talking to them. It might be the high school coach that you got and had converted to be a friend of yours and is working on a kid at all time. It might be a guidance counselor. It might be a Clemson math teacher that's teaching at that school, and she's got that student, and he's every day pumping Clemson. There's all kind of ways that's not illegal, but it's probably wrong too. But I just don't know. I don't have the answer, because it's just awful hard to out-recruit or out-work people nowadays. You gotta really do double time work. But I don't understand either all the tweeting and all. I don't email and I don't tweet, or whatever you call it.
Tweet, yes sir.
What is that called?
Twitter.
Yeah, Twitter. I don't do that either.
Yeah.
So, but they tell me you can talk to them just as much doing that now as you, probably more so than ever.
Yes, sir.
And email and do all this kind of thing. So I think they got plenty of time to do that. I know that we recruited a young man one time out of North Carolina, a running back, that we had a rule that you couldn't call but so many.
Right.
During the day in school, I think it was, but the rule wasn't that the boy couldn't call you. So he would go down at lunch to the coach's office and call our recruiter that was recruiting him every day at lunch. So
I think that's still the rule today.
Yeah. Well, we had a heck of an advantage, because that coach had such a great relationship with that kid. That kid wanted to talk to him, but not necessarily all the other coaches. So he would call him, and so we felt pretty good about getting that kid. Yeah. We got him too, but we knew we were going to get him because they had a great relationship. And most of that's what recruiting is: relationships with the people, with the coaches. I think the coaches here at Clemson now do a really good job of relationship with high school kids, and they got a great product. Number one, you got to have a great product to sell, and it's not necessarily the stadium, it's not necessarily the dining hall they got now, the West End Zone. It's the people, and it's the students, and it's the size of campus, and it's the support of IPTAY and all the people that support Clemson.
What were your favorite states to recruit in?
Recruit?
Yeah, that was best for you.
Our best, Jacksonville got to be a good, because we played in Gator Bowl so many times. It got to be, Clemson had a pretty good name in that area, and we were well received there. Even though one of our recruiters, coordinators at one time said we're going to recruit New Jersey. I said, God, no. What do we want to recruit New Jersey for? He said, because there's twice the number of high schools around the Beltway there as there is in the state of South Carolina, and we can fly there in an hour and a half in Philadelphia and get to the big airport and drive, around the town, or Washington, D.C. the same way, in an hour and a half, and hit twice as many schools as it takes you 6 hours to go all the way to Charleston back then. It took that long, or Myrtle Beach, and so there's population, see more people. In our last football team in '89, I think we had 4 starters from New Jersey.
Wow.
And that's good. We're getting all these Yankees. And the bad thing about them, they would marry our pretty little old Southern girls and not go home. And they still living down here.
Yeah, that's funny.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of that, you were from Alabama your whole life.
Yeah.
And then after Clemson, you went to Arkansas. But what brought you back to the Clemson
Well,
area?
it's farm. I have a farm here, and
what do you do on the farm?
Cattle.
Cattle. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I got cows and baling hay and staying busy and cleaning up. There's always something torn up or something to do around a farm, especially if you do it by yourself. So I have plenty to do and plenty to stay busy. And this farm was part of my contract at Clemson. I mean, I always wanted to farm.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much.
Thank y'all. Y'all appreciate it.